You're watching TAG TV.
Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with Pakistan, where all political parties are making last-ditch effort to emerge victor in the provincial and national elections that are just around the corner. While on one side, mainstream political parties are campaigning extensively to swing electorate's vote in their favour, on the other, the establishment-backed terrorists like Hafiz Saeed have also been aggressively voicing their anti-India and anti-US agenda in the public domain. We have a report.
Huge rallies with massive crowds, kilometers-long cavalcades and political revelry have gripped the atmosphere of Pakistan as the frontrunners to underdogs have put their heart and soul in the 11th hour of campaigning for the general elections 2018. Although the violence has marred the run-up to the polls, it has failed to dampen the spirit of the common man who is highly enthusiastic to cast his vote. Haq Nawaz, a date peddler who has witnessed the elections for decades, says that the country has been teetering between numerous issues and all successive regimes have failed to address the common man's problems.
सदर ज़ूब के ज़माने के सामने देखने लगे हैं वो फिर भी अच्छी हुकूमत कर गया है कि कोई खास हुण जी हुकूमत नहीं आ रही भाई हुकूमत जी आ रही है साढ़े लिए तो कुछ नहीं असी तो खजूर बेच रहे हैं साढ़े वास्ते कोई तब्दीली नहीं आई ऐसा क्या कर रही है.
However disillusioned with the political developments in the country over the last few years, Nawaz hopes Imran Khan's promised Naya Pakistan, which literally means New Pakistan, will bring better times for him.
ऐसी वोट असी इमरान खान दे रहे हैं तो वेखो नवा बंदा आ रहा है तो कोई साड़ी सहूलत कर देगा नहीं तो अजे तक तो सहूलत सानू मिली नहीं अगे अल्लाह मालिक है.
Although a majority of Khan's followers are youth, Khan's plans to establish one system of justice, reduce poverty and elevate the living standards of the poor has found favour with large portions of the working classes as well. Imprisonment to the former Prime Minister and still one of the most prominent voices in the elections, Nawaz Sharif and his daughter Maryam, have sparked a rage amongst his followers which many believe has the potential to change the dynamics of the elections. Sharif was removed from office by the Supreme Court last year and sentenced this month to 10 years in prison on corruption charges. Sharif is believed to have run afoul of the military, which has ruled Pakistan directly or indirectly for most of its 71-year history, where he sought to restrict its involvement in civilian affairs and criticize the army efforts to combat the extremist groups. However, the real cause of concern for the people across the country and the world should be the way in which unprecedented numbers of extremist and militant sectarian groups have been campaigning in the country. Hafiz Saeed, an international terror figure who carries a bounty of $10 million is on campaign trial with the state providing him the security. Analysts warn the phenomena is a slippery slope to further radicalization of this conservative Muslim majority nation.
And they want to put a counterpost there in the Pakistani National Assembly so that they have a strategic partner there. So far this jihadi groups were a strategic partner of the Pakistani army only as far as Indians are concerned in military operations against India. And now there will be strategic partners for the Pakistani army inside the Pakistani National Assembly also, which I think well, there can't be something worse.
Pakistan, which already stands on the cusp of being isolated from the international community owing to its persistent support to terrorism and other hardliners, has been brazenly mainstreaming the Islamic radicals owing to resolute support being provided to them by the Pakistan army. Any win for the radicals is going to push Pakistan further in the direction of South.
Terrorism and failed state of affairs have been the causes of despair for the country, and it is unlikely to change if an army-backed party comes to power. Moving on. While on one side the election fever has gripped the nation, on another there is a sharp disagreement among the minorities and other oppressed people in the country. They believe the elections are designed by the army and intelligence agencies and chances of free and fair polling are minimal. We have a report.
Washington chapter of the Muttahida Qawmi movement has decided to boycott the Pakistan general elections, which are slated to be held on July 25th. Recently, MQM staged a protest titled Boycott 2018 Election outside White House in Washington over continuous atrocities against refugees in Pakistan by Inter-Services Intelligence (ISI). The members of the MQM at the protest also alleged that the government and the intelligence agencies in Pakistan are busy in negotiating with terror outfits and are trying to install a weak puppet government. The activists chanted slogans against the government in Islamabad and the ISI by holding flags, placards and MQM chief Altaf Hussein's picture.
The message would be that we are not going to stop. We will go to every platform, every arena, anywhere possible to raise the voices of those going unheard. White House is the place where policies are made. Pakistan is receiving billions and billions of dollars in aid. This needs to stop. It needs to stop. Why? They need to stop killing the Muhajirs.
This is not the first time everybody is talking about that there is no hopes in Pakistan elections. For last 70 years, whatever time the elections been done in Pakistan, everybody knows is the involvement of army and military establishment and ISI.
The term Muhajir is used to describe the Urdu-speaking immigrants who left India in 1947 and came to Pakistan. A large chunk of them settled in Sindh province. Addressing the participants of the conference Muhajir Day on Capitol Hill, organized by the Muttahida Qawmi movement, Congressman Rorar Bachar alleged that the corrupt Pakistan army officers are involved in extrajudicial killings of the Muhajirs in Karachi. Many of these Muhajirs are forced to flee from Pakistan and live in exile in Europe and the United States.
The American people and other people who believe in freedom to the challenge that exists there in Karachi, and also, by the way, the Baluch people are under that same type of brutal oppression, and there are others as well. We have to make sure that the public is aware that the government in Islamabad and the ISI in particular are not the allies of free and decent people, but instead they are oppressing the people. And once that message gets through, of the nature of what's going on, I think that the good people of the world will do what's right and stand together with those who are oppressed.
Elections in Pakistan are more violent and rigid this time, as growing nexus between the military and militants has made it complex for the voters. US designated terror groups like Harkat-ul-Mujahideen and Lashkar-e-Toiba are openly participating in the elections with support of the intelligence agencies. There is hardly any scope left for minorities and other oppressed communities like the Muhajirs to participate in the elections.
Moving on to India, which hosted the 10th Delhi Dialogue, the premier annual event held in capital to discuss political security, the economic and socio-cultural engagement between India and the ASEAN countries. This year's event pondered upon and discussed the maritime security, a dimension that every country has been focusing upon in the recent times. A report.
Delhi Dialogue, the premier annual Track 1.5 events, was held in New Delhi with a theme to discuss the strengthening of India-ASEAN maritime cooperation and discuss other political security, economic and socio-cultural engagement between ASEAN and India. Delivering the keynote address, Minister of Foreign Affairs of India, Sushma Swaraj, asserted that this year's Delhi Dialogue was particularly special for it celebrated the 10th chapter of the relationship.
ASEAN is one of the focal points of India's foreign policy, strategic concerns and economic interests. These are the words of our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee when he attended the first ASEAN-India Summit in 2002 in Phnom Penh. Our government is committed to bringing India-ASEAN nations to full potential through our Act East policy with ASEAN at the core.
The event followed the commemorative summit of 25th January 2018 in New Delhi, which marked the 25th anniversary of ASEAN-India partnership. Vivian Balakrishnan, the Foreign Minister of Singapore, who was also on the state visit to India, expressed contentment at India's instrumentality in connecting India and ASEAN. He also stressed at how it was crucial for Singapore to oppose any attempts that threatened the freedom of navigation in the high seas.
Safeguard the use of the sea for free navigation and for unimpeded legal commerce. And this is why Singapore will also resolutely oppose any attempt by anyone to threaten or to constrain this fundamental right of freedom of navigation and overflight in our region and our surrounding waters.
Earlier, Indian Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan met Singaporean Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan in the Indian national capital, New Delhi. According to India's Foreign Ministry, Singapore is India's 10th largest bilateral trade partner 2016-17 and the second largest among ASEAN countries, with a share of 2.5% and 2.6% of overall trade of India and Singapore respectively. The significant number of Indians live in Singapore and about 9% of the Singaporeans are ethnic Indians. The number of short-term or non-resident Indians in Singapore in 2007 was estimated to be around 100,000, which included many students or working professionals. He also held bilateral talks with Sushma Swaraj to discuss a range of ties between the countries.
India also underscored the need of peaceful settlement of disputes in keeping with the international law and finding collaborative solutions to emerging and non-traditional challenges. Moving on to Afghanistan, where the security situation has constantly been declining owing to an intensified violence by the insurgents groups of Taliban and Islamic State. While the US-backed Kabul establishment has been rooting for talks with the insurgents in order to restore peace that has been ravaged by a 17-year war, former President Hamid Karzai has been critical of the advances made by the government and is of the opinion that US presence in the country has only worsened the situation. A report.
In spite of the ramped-up efforts by Afghanistan government to protect the beleaguered territories of the state, the insurgents have made a successful resurgence and have gained control over large swaths of territories. With the presidential elections inching closer, the violence and terror have reached an unprecedented level, making the situation even more fragile. Only days after the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited the country to review the security situation, US General John Nicholson reiterated the United States' stance of exploiting all the options available on the table to restore peace in the region. Nicholson, who has led US and NATO forces in the country since 2016, echoed US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who had promised US support for Afghan President Ashraf Ghani's bid to start peace talks with the Taliban.
And our Secretary of State, Mr. Pompeo, has said that we, the United States, are ready to talk with the Taliban and discuss the role of international forces.
Pompeo had asserted that US was ready to facilitate the peace process, which according to him also required support from other neighboring countries. Meanwhile, former Afghan President Hamid Karzai, in an interview to the Chinese state channel, expressed his apprehension at the developments being made by the Ghani government to make the country stable. He stated that the alliance of Kabul and Washington has failed to yield any result for the country, and he could foresee similar failure in the future as well.
Unfortunately, it isn't working at all. The security situation in Afghanistan has worsened considerably, and the suffering of our people has increased considerably. It is exactly because of this that there is a lot of cry aloud in Afghanistan for change in the policy that the United States has adopted towards Afghanistan, not only the past year of President Trump, but even before that. Change for us means an end to war, an end to violence, and the return of peace.
In 2014, Afghanistan's current president Ashraf Ghani and the US had signed a bilateral security agreement to allow international forces to stay in the country beyond 2014. Before that, Hamid Karzai himself had refused to sign the pact for more than a year, frustrating international forces that would have had to begin withdrawing personnel without the agreement.
We don't believe the United States will leave Afghanistan. They may reduce the presence of their troops in Afghanistan. They may reduce their footprint or presence in Afghanistan, but we don't think they will leave completely. We don't think they will leave their bases in Afghanistan. But in case they one day decided to leave Afghanistan completely, then it is extremely important for our region, where we have global powers as neighbors with us, meaning China as a leading world power and as a neighbor of Afghanistan, taking initiative with two other major powers in our region and globally, Russia and India, and with our most important neighbors, Pakistan and Iran, to create an environment of guarantees, two-way guarantees, from our neighbors towards Afghanistan, especially Pakistan, and from Afghanistan towards our neighbors, especially Pakistan, so Afghanistan can be stable and peaceful. If that condition is met, surely we will have peace in Afghanistan.
The US-backed Kabul government has made extensive multi-layered efforts to bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. Earlier, President Ghani had proposed legitimizing the Taliban as a political entity and releasing prisoners in an effort to bring them closer to ending the conflict. Last month, Kabul extended a unilateral ceasefire to mark the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, hoping that the truce might encourage the insurgents to join a dialogue. But the ceasefire was followed by resumed attacks after 3 days. Statistics and reports from different sources indicate at least 60% of the Afghan territory is under Taliban influence, and these insurgents have been successfully recapturing the ground at an overwhelming rate. Attacks have reportedly increased in recent months, with near-daily offensives launched against security forces.
Moving on. BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, which has emerged as viable alternative to the SAARC, a South Asian grouping that has remained dormant on account of India refusing to participate in the summits owing to Pakistan's constant support to terrorism and using terrorists against India, is ready to hold its next summit in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. We have Mr. Pradeep Kumar Gaywali, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nepal, who will give us more updates on the summit. We will also ask him his government's plans to deal with the situation like Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, where the government was caught off guard. Mr. Gaywali, kindly tell our viewers about the BIMSTEC summit that is going to be held in Nepal, and also tell us how the government has been gearing up for it.
The upcoming fourth summit of BIMSTEC is one of the important event after the formation of the new government, and it is a good opportunity for the Nepal to share its experience to the friendly nations of the BIMSTEC. So meeting has been fixed for the last of the coming August. Summit will held in 30 and the 31st of August, and prior to that there will be a foreign ministerial meeting, and prior to that there will be a high-level official meeting. For the preparation, we have already sent the invitations to the head of the states, head of the governments of the BIMSTEC network. We are preparing the documents which are going to be signed, and which will contribute to enhance the connectivity, the tourism, the economic partnership, some steps to mitigate to reduce the poverty and to the betterment of the people of all 7 countries.
Is government making any changes in the preparations in the way the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra is conducted, especially after a sudden crisis popped up a few days ago?
These incidents have give us some lessons to learn, and some experiences have contributed to make some reforms in all this process. So we will coordinate with Indian government, those agencies who are responsible for the travel of the pilgrims. So in the days to come, there will be some further reforms, and you have pointed a right thing, that if we have proper registration, if we have some proper data, then the preparation for the rescue and other assistance become more smart and more effective. So we will discuss the concerning agencies in the days to come.
Thank you, Mr. Gyawali. Moving on to India, where the famous Rath Yatra or Chariot Festival is underway in different parts of the country. Dedicated to Lord Jagannath, his sister Subhadra and brother Balbhadra, the procession is one of the biggest and widely celebrated occasions of India. Though it is celebrated with same fanfare in different parts of the country, the one held at Puri in Odisha is just beyond comparison. Have a look.
It made for an incredible sight when lakhs of devotees in all vigor and spirit pulled the ropes of 3 beautifully decorated chariots on the Grand Trunk Road in Puri. The structures resembling like temples carry the 3 main deities, Lord Jagannath accompanied by Sudarshan Chakra, his elder brother Balbhadra and sister Subhadra in them. During Rath Yatra, these deities ride from the Jagannath temple to Kundija temple located on the other end of Grand Trunk Road, where they stay for 9 days. A glimpse of Lord Jagannath on the chariot is considered to be a very auspicious. Saints, poets and scriptures have repeatedly glorified the sanctity of the festival. Devotees consider the pulling of the chariots with ropes a pious deed and risk their lives in the huge crowd.
It's really fascinating to see the Lord coming on the carts, including Jagannath ji, Baldev and Subhadra ji. I think once in a year this is real pleasure to the eyes to watch real Lord coming out and giving darshan to so many people.
It's not just the Puri city of Odisha that was soaked into the fervour of Chariot Festival, but its zeal was observed in other parts as well. In Assam's Guwahati, lakhs of pilgrims took to the streets to pull the chariots of the deities as part of the auspicious occasion. People from different communities of the state, dressed in the traditional dresses, performed traditional dances. Some portions from the epics were also enacted by some artists. The devotees believe that the Chariot Festival is meant to unite people and foster peace and harmony in the world.
अभी पुरी में हो रहा है ये रथ यात्रा, तो इसी दिन में यहाँ भी हो रहा है। तो विशेष करके इसका मतलब है कि लोग भगवान का मंदिर में नहीं जा पाते कलयुग में, तो अपना अपना काम में व्यस्त रहते हैं, तो इसलिए भगवान खुद बाहर आ जाते हैं। और इससे जो यूनाइटेड नेशंस जो प्रयास कर रहा है कि लोगों में एकता हो, शांति हो, प्रगति हो, तो हम लोग में यूनिवर्सल ब्रदरहुड क्या कहते हैं, तो सब में भाई भाई का अभाव पैदा हो, तो इसके लिए हम हरिनाम का प्रसार करते हैं और इसके द्वारा इसको हम प्राप्त कर सकते हैं।
Rath Yatra is an age-old tradition of India and is being celebrated for the past 1000 years. It is believed that every year Lord Jagannath wishes to pay his visit to his birthplace Mathura for few days. To fulfill his desire, the yatra is conducted from Jagannath temple to Kundija temple.
Today, the popularity of Rath Yatra is not just limited to India, but has gained prominence across the world, with over 192 countries celebrating the festival with great zeal and enthusiasm. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.
You're watching TAG TV.